Good morning, Facebook Livers. Welcome to the class. Hope you can see me clearly. Message me if you can't, and we will get ourselves moving. I'm just going to have a quick look on the screen and see if I can see myself. And yeah, I'm up the right way. So that's all we need to know for that. And we will allow ourselves to get moving. Hi guys. Hi. Okay. So let's get ourselves moving. We will take a nice gentle Pilates class today, allowing those feet to be underneath our hips and letting the toes point forwards. So I want to allow ourselves to find some challenges for those core muscles today. We're going to allow ourselves to zone in on the breath, allowing ourselves to really find that breath and core connection. And allow ourselves to find a sense of mobility and stretch, as we always do. So do listen into your body. Make sure that you're working at the pace that's right for you. Bearing in mind, some of us have had a week off. Some of us are new to the Pilates today. So we will take it gently, and I'll try and make sure that I'm explaining what I'm after. But as I say, if there are any exercises that you think, oh, that one don't feel right, rest and we can find an alternative. Those of you that are on Zoom, if you make sure the camera's on you, I'll be able to see if you stop, and you can always give me a wave if you need an alternative. So we've got the feet underneath the hips and we've got the toes pointing forwards. Let's allow ourselves to find that nice sturdy base. Good. So if you feel comfortable enough, just allow the eyes to close. And then we're going to allow ourselves to zone in on our breath and allow that breath to come and go nice and gently. And as you do, just allow yourself to release all worries or concerns and see if you can just switch in to how you're feeling right now. So as I ask you to close your eyes, just bear in mind for me if you start to feel dizzy or giddy, or if you want to open your eyes for any other reason, do so. Don't feel as though you're caught in this eyes closed instruction. So we've got the breath coming and going nice and gently. Let's think about the rib cage and think about that rib cage spanning all the way from the spine right around the torso to the front. And let's see if we can get a sense of move in the rib cage from all those directions. So although we think about the breath coming into the front of the rib cage, we also want to think about allowing that breath to expand wide into the sides of the rib cage. And let's see if we can allow ourselves to breathe into the back of the rib cage, so really expanding into all the different directions of the ribs. And as we breathe nice and deeply, just allowing that breath to come and go, let's allow our attention to come onto our pelvis. We'll allow ourselves to feel a sense that we're not gripping into the space between the pelvis and the thigh bones. So we've got a sense of release between those two joints. Let's also visualise the pelvis like a bucket of water filled to the top. And we'll just tip a little bit of water out of the front of the bucket. And then we'll tip a little bit of water out of the back of the bucket. Now do that a few times for me, exploring that range of movement, just checking out how that feels for you. And then allow yourself to find that place where it feels as though your bucket of water is nice and level, not tipping out of the front or out of the back. Lovely. And when you find that place, we'll allow ourselves to lengthen really nice and tall. Feel as though the top of the head is lengthening up towards the space above you. And we'll allow ourselves to think about drawing in the muscles of the belly button. So draw the belly button in as if you've got a belt on and you're just tightening it up one notch. Let's keep that belt tightened up, and we'll allow the breath to come and go nice and fully into the rib cage. So now we're not going to breathe low into the abdomen, so we're going to keep that sense of the belly button drawing in, but at the same time we're going to allow the breath to be really expansive. Lovely. Let's allow the shoulders to lift, and we'll roll the shoulders back and down. And again, the shoulders gently lift and roll back and down. Good, taking 2 more like that. And just 1 more. And then we'll allow those shoulders to ease towards one another and sink down towards the tailbone. Now keep those shoulder blades sinking down towards the tailbone, and then just allow the knees to gently bend and lengthen. Good, we'll do that a few times, keeping that sense of length in the spine. So we're going to keep that sense of the head floating upwards as if we've got a piece of string attached to the top of our head, and just letting those knees gently bend and lengthen. And as we do, let's think about the connection to the floor. So we've got the balls of the feet resting nicely into the floor, and we've got even weight into our heel. So we've got a nice sort of even triangle of weight. As you do these little lifts, let's see if we can find a little energy in the arches of our feet. So a little sense of drawing up there. Lovely. Last one there. And allow yourself to come to a place where you're not locking into the knees, but there's a sense of them being lengthened. Take a deep breath, let the right arm float forwards and up. Breathe in as the arm floats back down, changing over to the other arm. Arm floats forwards and up. Breath in as the arm floats back down. Lovely, changing sides each time. Lovely, finishing off then, we'll do the same thing to the side, so allowing that arm to gently open out to the side, breathing in as the arm floats back down, changing over to the opposite side. Lovely. Once again on each side. Good, and then just for good measure and to check that we're all still awake, we'll allow one arm to float forwards and the other one to float to the side. And softening down, lovely. Changing over to the opposite side. So this arm that's by our side, we're going to keep it just to the side. So making sure that it's not knocking back behind us. Lovely. One more on each side. Beautiful, well done, lovely. And give those arms a little shake out there. Lovely. We'll take a little side bend from there, take a deep breath and allow the right fingertips to glide down the side of the leg. Head extends out and away. Breathing in as we come through to the centre, up and over to the opposite side. And coming through the centre, up and over. Keep that going for me. Ah, yes, see what you mean, Rachel. I'll get onto that. If you feel ready to, allow one arm to lengthen up and over, and then coming through the centre, up and over to the opposite side. Keep that going for me, guys. Lovely. So as we do that, we're extending out through the top of the head. Lovely, last one there. And then coming into the centre for me, just draw the fingertips in towards one another. Let's allow those shoulders to glide down the back. Once again, connecting into those deep core muscles. Take a deep breath. Your pelvis is going to stay still as you allow the rib cage to gently rotate round. Breathing in as we return back to the centre, and then rotating around to the opposite side. Good, keeping that going for me. Lovely. Now, if you feel ready to, we'll allow the head to be extending up, out and away, and we can allow both the elbows to go wide, let the fingers point up so the pelvis stays nice and stable and still. We breathe in as we return back, and then rotating around to the opposite side. Lovely. One more on each side. Lovely. And then releasing the arms. As we come back to the centre here, we'll take a nice deep breath, breathing out, we'll release through the top of the head, and we'll roll gently down through the spine, coming down through the vertebrae bit by bit, piece by piece. Take a nice deep breath at the bottom, and then breathing out as we roll back up through the spine. Lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down, and then take a little bend of the knees, let the arms open out to the side. Lovely. And lengthening the legs. Again, releasing through the top of the head, rolling down through the spine for me. So let the head lead the way, rolling down bit by bit. Beautiful. Good. Take a deep breath at the bottom and then breathing out as you roll back up through the spine. Lovely. When we get there, we'll lift the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down, and allow both arms to float forwards and up. Breathing in as the arms float back down. Lovely. This time, if you feel you need to, just track the hands down the fronts of the thighs as you're rolling down through the vertebrae. Nice deep breath. And as we breathe out, let's roll up through the spine. Head comes on top, lifting the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down. Let's allow one arm to go wide, one arm to go forwards. Nice one. Let's do the same on the other side so we know that we're even. Lovely. And again, releasing through the top of the head, rolling through the spine. And this time, as you come up to standing, allow the eyes to open. So that as you work through the arms, we can allow the opposite knee to lift. So as the arm floats forwards, the opposite knee lifts upwards. And we float back down, change over to the opposite side. So the opposite knee to the arm that's floating forwards. Lovely. And again, rolling down through the spine. Nice deep breath, breathing out as we roll back up. Lifting the shoulders, roll the shoulders back and down. Right foot floats forwards as the left arm floats forwards. Breathing in as we float back down. Changing sides. Lovely. And floating down for me there, just changing sides again, taking that balance work. Now, as you allow yourself to stay balanced, if you can, let the knee open out to the side and then drawing the leg back in. Floating down, changing over to the other side. We lift. Knee opens out to the side. Lovely. And then coming back to the centre. Oh, she says you didn't need to do the wobble. That was an extra that I just added in for you there. Let the knee lift. Now, just for aesthetics, as the knee comes across, the arms can change over and then coming back. It feels a bit more balanced actually if you bring the arms with you, I think. If you need to support yourself on a chair, you can do. By that I mean hold on to a chair, don't stand on the chair, that wouldn't help at all. Let's do one more on each side. Lovely. Last one here. Lovely. And releasing, give them the arms a shake out, give the legs a shake out. Good. We'll take a deep breath in, we'll roll down through the spine and we'll bring ourselves onto hands and knees. I'd recommend being on a side angle to the camera because then you can see me easily, but if your room dictates another way, then that's fine. So we're rolling down through the spine. We'll bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Allow the knees to come underneath the hips. And once we're there, with the hands underneath the shoulders, we'll let the knees be underneath the hips. So we're going to really connect into those core muscles once we're there, finding a nice cat stretch. So we'll allow the back to push up into the sky, let the tailbone point down, head releases. And then we'll lengthen the head and the tail away from one another. And again, we push the back up into the sky, tailbone points down, head drops between the arms. And we lengthen out and away. Do just 2 more like that for me, see how that feels. Lovely, good. Last one, so as we come out from there, head and tail lengthen away and the shoulders are really gliding down the back. Now, we've got that sense that the belly button's really drawing away from the floor. Take a nice deep breath for me, and as you breathe out, I want you to allow your right leg to slide away from you. Breathing in as we allow the leg to return. And then we'll slide the opposite leg away. Breath in as the leg returns. I want you to imagine that there's a glass of water balanced on your pelvis. Now, I want you to make sure that glass of water doesn't spill. You might be able to lift the leg a little bit higher, and that's marvellous. Now, as the right leg stretches away, we can allow the left arm to lengthen. Breathing in as the arm and the leg return. And then if you feel ready to, you've got the arm and the leg lengthening out and away, and we'll just allow the knee to open out to the side a little. Drawing back into the centre line and then bringing the arm and the leg underneath us. So we'll stretch the leg and the arm away, opening out on the diagonal, coming back to the centre and floating the leg back in. Keep that going for me. As you lengthen the leg away, the arm can open out, but imagine there's a long line from fingertip to toe, so the arm doesn't come all the way to the side, just as far as that outer leg will do. The leg's going to. Lovely. So we're lengthening the leg and the arm away. The arm and leg open out to the side. We bring the leg back into the centre. Now, bring the hand back to the floor and just bend that knee in for me. Let the toe point up towards the sky. Let's give it a little pulse upwards. Seeing if we can do that without losing our strength in our core, and then drawing the leg back in. So changing to the other side. Leg extends away. Knee and leg open out to the side. Coming back in. Bend at the knee, toe points up for the sky, and then we take a little push upwards with the toe and the knee and draw the leg back in. So a few things to check there. We're going to allow the toe to be pointing directly upwards from the knee. Don't let the knee do a little cheeky push out to the side. So we bring the toe up and it's a little extra push up and come on down. So some people call this a scorpion. So if you imagine that as you push your toe up towards the sky, you're creating a scorpion's tail, and you're going to try and do a little spike. Yeah. That bit's optional, you don't need to do it, you can stick with just the extension away. Last one on each side. Because I know that some of us, our wrists will have had enough by now. Good. Watch out for the toe dropping down. Make sure it goes straight up for you so that the knee isn't turning out. And we press the toe up. Get that squeeze in the bottom. And then draw the knees back in, sit back onto your heels, lengthen the arms. And if you want to take the knees a little bit wider, it might feel really nice in the hip and in the crease in the hip there and in the back. So from here, let's just allow our hands to gently walk over to the right side, and we're going to stretch the left arm along and reach away from us, pushing into the left hip. So we'll stretch out through that whole side of the body. Take a nice deep breath, walking the hands over to the other side, and then that right arm reaches across you, pushing into the right hip. So almost pulling the right hip in one direction and reaching with the other, with the arm in the other. Lovely. Coming back to the centre, let's allow ourselves to come forwards. Oh, I know, let's do like a little cheeky, because our wrists have had a little break, haven't they? So we walk the hands forwards, and let's allow the knees, hips and shoulders to come into a nice long line. The shoulders glide down the back, head extends out and away, and we're squeezing through the tummy. It's like, surprise, surprise, I'm in a plank position. Shoulders gliding down the back, squeezing in through the tummy. Now some of us will be feeling really ambitious here, and we'll want to tuck the toes under and lift the knees. Others of us will have the knees down and we'll be thinking, I'm just going to check in with my back here. I'm going to squeeze in with my tummy. I'm going to make sure my back's feeling really strong. So in whichever position we're in, we want to make sure that we're really stable and secure through the back. Feel the belly button scooping in. I'm loving your work. If you want to, if your wrists have had enough, now's the time to come down onto our elbows. So we'll bring our elbows down and we'll stay in this modified plank position. Shoulders are gliding down the back. We're going to scoop up through the tummy. Let's see if we can tuck the toes under and lift the knees. And then just check that you're not lifting your bottom for the sky, but it's still in line. So shoulders gliding down, head extending out and away. Nice and deep with the breath. I reckon we've got one more breath in us. And lowering the knees, and then allow yourself to float all the way down. Coming down onto the floor from there. Let's allow the elbows to go wide from there and allow the fingers to point forwards. And we'll allow the nose to hover just an inch away from the floor as we look to take our spine extensions from here. So we've got our nose hovering away from the floor, we've got our elbows resting down, we're not holding ourselves up from our elbows, we're just allowing them to rest heavy. Before we start to create any movement, let's start to think about our deep abdominal muscles. So let's imagine that there's a precious little tiny egg underneath our belly button, and we're going to draw the belly button up and away from the floor. It's not necessarily going to lift off the floor, but it's going in that direction. Coming away from the floor, we take a nice deep breath. The back of the neck is long. As we breathe out, shoulders glide down the back, upper back gently lifts. And we breathe in as we float back down. And again we lift, shoulders glide down the back. We breathe in as we float back down. Now, let's make sure that 10 toenails are touching the floor here. Let's allow the feet to be resting down. And we're allowing ourselves to really use all that connection through the tummy to keep the lower back secure as we create as much movement as we can through the upper back. And if you want to, we can allow those arms to hover just an inch away from the floor, so that as your shoulders glide down the back, the arms are lifted, and you might find that the elbows can squeeze a little bit tighter towards the rib cage. Breathing in as we float back down. 2 more like that. And last one. yourself to release all the way down. Just give yourself a moment there. Lovely. Let's come on to our side. Now I'm going to assume that you're on your left side. But I appreciate that depending on where the camera is and how your room's set up, it might be that you're on the other side. Just be mindful of where you're at. So we've got the bottom arm nice and long and the head is resting down there. The shoulders are on top of one another, as are the hips. And we can take a little look down at the toes, check we can see the toes. So nice deep breath. The right hand may want to, the top hand may want to rest on the floor to start off with. Let's see how we go. Take a nice deep breath, top leg stretches away from you. Reach that top leg away and see if you can get a real sense of length and extension there. Take a deep breath, let the bottom leg stretch and lengthen and extend. So you've got both legs really reaching and extending away from you. Now, while we're here, we want to, sometimes I find that people feel that the hip feels uncomfortable, particularly just below the hip. It's the knobbly bit of the thigh bone. We want to see if we can allow ourselves to put more weight or think about emphasising extending into the feet. Somehow if we put our weight into our feet, it seems to take it off of that point and it doesn't feel as uncomfortable. Then we're working towards bringing this top hand off and lifting the hand and resting it by our side, and that might be today, it might not be, and that's all right too. Taking nice deep breaths, top leg gently circles, breathing out for half the circle, breathing in to complete the circle. Now, so the order of the challenges are as I set them. The first challenge is to allow both legs to be lifted, which is a challenge for a lot of us. The second challenge is to see if we can get that hand to lift off and rest by our side, because then we're really working on challenging our balance and our stamina. Now, once you've got both legs lifted and the arms resting by your side, then we can add those circles. Let's finish off there. Floating the legs down, soften in through the knees. Good. Now, just going to tip the top hip slightly forward, scoop in through the tummy, top knee overlaps the bottom knee, and we'll allow that knee to gently lift and lower. And we lift and lower. Lovely. Nice and squeeze in the tummy. And we're all still breathing. So I should have said at the beginning of the class that you can breathe in either direction. Let's glue the knees together and allow both the feet to lift. So sometimes people say to me that they're finding that they're breathing out as I'm asking them to breathe in. And that's fine, as long as you're keeping the breath flowing. It'll all be good. Nice one, that looks great. Good. Let's allow ourselves to take a little cycle in action. So this top leg is going to push forwards, cycle back and around. Good, and draw in. And again, push, cycle all the way around. Good, that's it. Just taking two more like that. Last one, and then we'll back pedal. So we'll push the heel back and then cycle around, seeing how large you can make that action. Good, lovely. And as we finish off that one, we'll bring the foot in, wrap the foot probably around the front, wrap the hand, around the front of the foot, and then we'll stretch our knee away from us. Now, some people find it really difficult to grab the foot from here. So they find it useful to grab a band or a scarf or something like that that links around the foot, and then you can hold on to it. It just allows the front of the thigh to have a stretch without demanding too much of the back of the thigh if we hold on to it. Lovely. And let's release from there. If you've got a cushion nearby. Pop it underneath your head now. And we'll allow both arms to reach forwards, letting the head rest down. We'll take a nice deep breath from there, and as we breathe out, the top arm can gently open, the eyes will be fixed on the hand. And we'll breathe in as the arm returns. Lovely, and again we'll allow that top arm to open, eyes are fixed on the hand. Breathing in as the arm returns. And then if anybody fancies it, we'll take that chalk circle from there. So the fingertips stay connected to the floor and we circle gently around. And then we circle gently back. And you can combine the two, and if you want to, you can really combine the two. I had this idea the other day. You open up the book, and then you keep the fingertips connected to the floor as you circle back around. When the hands connect, you circle back the way, and then you close the book. Just a little change to the way to the pattern of the way we go about it, but it feels quite fancy. I quite like it. Drawing the arm back in, and then let's allow ourselves to just come onto our backs. The leg that we've been working, I want you to bring across your knee. So you've been working the top leg, and I want you to now bring that foot across the opposite knee. Let that knee fall out to the side. So for some of us, pressing that knee away will be challenge enough into the hip. Others of us, we're going to weave our hand around the thigh that's got the foot resting on the floor, and then we're going to bring that foot in close to us. Nice and gentle with the breath. And just while you're there, just let your head just roll from side to side. Take a moment to really release into the neck. And as we bring the head back into the centre, we'll release those legs down. And then come up to a seated position for me. Leave your cushion where it is, because it reminds us which way we've just been. So let's allow the legs to go wide. I want you to be in any seated position that works for you at this point. And we'll just allow ourselves to take a little head tip from side to side. And then we'll bring the head into the centre, and we'll allow that head to gently rotate round from side to side. Lovely. Great. And then just take a moment to tuck the chin down towards the chest for me, releasing across the back of the upper neck. Not the upper neck, the upper back. And then taking a nice deep breath from there, coming up with the head. Taking the hands behind you and allow the feet to come onto the floor wider than your pelvis. And we'll lift up really nice and tall. We'll let the knees just drop gently to the side. And then coming back through the centre and drop to the other side. Good, see how that feels. Good. Yes, the bottom walks away from your hands. You just end up shuffling away, and eventually you'll end up laying on the floor if we do it for too long. So we'll allow ourselves to bring the knees over to one side, and then see if you can sit up as tall as you can from there. So for some of us, we're here and we're thinking, whoa, that's really tight. So we'll stay here and we'll breathe nice and deeply. Others of us, we can allow the hands to come forwards and we can ease ourselves over that front knee, that front shin. We're looking at having 2 90-degree angles in the knees, but that might not happen today. We might need the front foot to be in quite close to the thigh, and that's okay too. Let's lift nice and tall and we'll allow those knees to tip over to the other side. And then again, seeing where it works for you, seeing if we can get that hip to just drop gently down. So there's quite a few of us in the group that are feeling our hips have got quite tight recently. So this one's a really nice one for releasing that out. It doesn't feel very nice. It feels like your body will be going, no, but it's actually thanking you. Let's allow ourselves to ease gently forwards. If you can, if being upright is a better option for you, then stay there, that's brilliant. And then lifting nice and tall. Coming back into the centre. We're going to take our side leg kick on the other side. So you can either switch your head over to the other side of your mat or go for the same side of your mat and just roll away from me. So making sure you change sides. Now when I say switch your cushion over, you don't need it for a minute, so you can get rid of it for a sec. And then we'll allow that bottom arm to be really nice and long. The bottom arm is extending out as if it was an extension of your spine, so that it's so extended out above you that you can just rest your head on it. It acts as a perfect little cushion for you. Let's check that our toes haven't swooped behind us, so we'll just take a little look down, check we can see our toes. Nice deep breath. As we breathe out, we'll extend and stretch the legs away from us, fully reaching those legs out and away. Allow the legs to really extend. Yeah, lovely. So imagining that your legs are lightsabers and you've got this amazing energy shooting out through your feet. And that's coming, that energy is coming all the way from your waist, all the way from those core muscles, shooting out and extending. The top hand may rest on the floor to start off with, or it might come and rest by your side, which is a marvellous thing. And then if you're happy, we'll allow that top leg to gently circle. So your feet can be relaxed as you do this. Lots of the Pilates, like the original Pilates exercises, had stretched feet, but that was mainly because he was working with dancers and they would have stretched their feet automatically. That's my belief anyway. So we don't need to be worrying about what our feet are doing at this point. And this one, I find it's best to remind yourself to not stretch or flex so we don't get any cramp in the foot. Just 2 more there, doing really well. And floating the legs down, and we'll soften in through the knees, letting that hip tip gently forwards once again, squeezing in through the tummy so the hip is nice and still, pelvis stays stable, top knee lifts and lowers. Good, and we soften down, scoop, scoop, scoop in through the tummy. Lovely, just 3 more. Lovely, last one, gluing the knees together, we'll allow both the feet to lift and lower and lift and lower. Good. Taking 2 more like that, and then we'll take our bicycles. So the top leg gently cycles, pushing forwards and cycling around, a little squeeze in the buttock as we get to the back of the exercise, drawing in. Push back behind and circle around. Lovely. Janet's got the visitor today. And then circling back on yourself. It's a shame I don't video the Zooms actually, because I could have made a little montage of all the little animals, the little pets that come on in while we're doing our Pilates. Last one there, then drawing that foot in, seeing if you can grab hold of the foot round the front of the foot, so that then when it comes close to the bottom we can stretch that leg away. Now, as we do that, we're aiming to get the knee pointing down towards the wall in the same direction as the leg was pointing on the side leg kicks. We're nice and deep with the breath here. And then just check for me, I have this naughty habit of letting my shoulder do lots of work here, and it creates a lot of strain. So just check that your top shoulder is really dropping down and away. And from there, if you feel as though the stretch has started to ease, just tuck in the tailbone under so you get a really nice stretch across the front of the hip flexor as well, and it'll intensify down the quad. Lovely. Nice. Last breath and release. Allowing yourself to grab that cushion if you want to use it, and then pop it under your head. Let there be some cushion behind you, so that then as you let the head rest down and you can roll with the action, let the head roll with the action. And breathing in as we draw the arm back. Good. Just taking a few like that, checking that you've got a sense of the neck's really relaxed, the head's really heavy, the eyes are on the hand. And then if you feel ready to, we'll add our little combination in. We'll do our chalk circles. So the arm opens out and it might go all the way behind us. If it doesn't, you just bring it back and do the chalk circle how we normally would. Let the fingertips connect to the floor and then circle them around. Then circle them back. Yeah, that's it, Janet, nice. And then bringing the arm back in. Yeah, good. So we'll open the arm out, we'll open the book. We'll make our chalk circle. And we'll circle back the other way. And then we'll close the book. Good, let's do one more like that. I love it. I love this movement. Makes you feel so stretched out. And then bringing that arm back in. Let's come onto our backs and we'll take that stretch for the glute once again. So it's the leg that's just been doing all the lifting work. We're going to bring that foot across the opposite knee. That knee will then drop out to the side. Yeah, great. And then we can weave our hands around the leg that's got the foot resting on the floor, and we'll bring the legs in close to us. Just take a moment there to allow yourself to really release into that stretch. Lovely. And releasing the legs down onto the ground, bringing the feet onto the floor, letting the knees bend. If you don't need to use the cushion under your head anymore, by all means get rid of it. If you find it more comfortable to have the cushion under your head, that's fine. So, let's allow ourselves to really release down into the ground here. So we can take a moment to just surrender to the floor. Let go of anything you're holding on to right now. So your head can be nice and heavy, the neck can be long, we can let the rib cage rest on down, and the pelvis can rest down into the floor, and the feet are on the floor nicely, evenly hip distance apart. Let's just take a moment to rock the pelvis. So we'll let the lower back sink into the floor, and then we'll tip the pelvis in the opposite direction, and we'll exaggerate the curve in the lower back. Let's take it through those two extremes, tipping gently forwards and gently back. And then we'll find that place where it feels as though hip bone and pubic bone come to level with one another. And at that point, just check that your rib cage is able to really soften down into the ground. Let's take a moment to really connect into the pelvic floor muscles. So we'll take a deep breath for ourselves there, and then we'll draw in through the pelvic floor, and then we'll release in away. Let's keep that going. Pelvic floor gently draws in and release in. So we're all thinking about the space between our pubic bone and our tailbone, and we're trying to bring those muscles inwards and upwards, or sort of towards one another and then into the pelvis. And then we can release. So these are our nice slow contractions. And in Pilates, we work those stamina muscles as much as, for the entire time. Now, it is worth putting into your exercises, your daily exercises at home, some quick pelvic floor work. So let's just try out now, exploring the difference between the two. Let's think of it like a little click. So we'll have a little switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. Two more, switch on, switch off. Last one, switch on, switch off. Brilliant. Let's come into a halfway squeeze. So we're just drawing that pelvic floor in, a little contraction that's going to support us. We've got neutral spine. We'll take a nice deep breath. As we breathe out, let's slide the right leg away from us. And we'll breathe in as that leg returns. Changing over to the other side. Sliding the leg away. Breathing in as the leg returns. This time, slide the right leg away, draw the leg back in and allow the knee to come to hover above the hip socket, and then let that knee gently open out to the side. Breathing in as we draw the leg back in and float the leg down. So changing over to the other side. So we slide away, we breathe in as we draw the leg back in, and then that knee opens out to the side. Now, I've got my hands on my hips. Let's change sides each time. In fact, I've got my fingertips on my hip bones and my thumbs are touching my rib cage. Because what I want to make sure is that as I open that knee out, my hips aren't tipping. And I find it quite a good gauge if I've got my thumb on my rib cage as well, because then I've got a sort of level plane to check with. Knee opens out to the side and drawing back to the centre, floating gently down. As you slide that leg away, if you want to, the opposite arm can lengthen over the head. Breathing in as the arm and the leg return. Let that arm float back by your side as we allow the knee to open out to the side. And then we'll change over to the other leg. Opposite arm extends up and over the head. Breathing in as the knee floats to the sky, and then we'll allow that knee to open out to the side. Let's take one more like that on each side. And as your left leg comes to hover above the hip socket, we'll let that knee open out to the side, but then we're going to keep it there. And we're going to take some little knee circles. So the thigh bone circles within the hip socket, just as you were doing before. And just as you were doing before, you're going to keep the hip bones really nice and still. Can you take 5 in one direction and 5 in the other direction for me? So, your extra challenges. You're going to keep your hip bones nice and level and still. The larger you make the circle, the more of a challenge it is for you to keep the pelvis stable and still. When you've done 5 in one direction, do change to the other direction. If you do want a little bit more challenge there, you can allow the opposite leg to slide away from you. However, make sure you're staying in neutral spine and your rib cage hasn't suddenly popped upwards. Keeping the rib cage sinking down as you take that option. Good. When you've worked 5 in each direction, we'll change over to the opposite leg. So the knee gently circles. the larger you make the circle, the more of a challenge it's going to be. So if you're finding that your hips are tipping as you take that the leg circle, just make the action a little bit smaller or slow the action down. Sometimes that helps. Checking in that the rib cage is softly melting down. Let's change the direction of the circle. And when we've done 5 there, we'll float that foot down, bringing the feet in reasonably close to the bottom as we have a little look at our shoulder bridge. So we'll take a nice deep breath here. As we breathe out, we're going to push the lower back into the floor. We're going to tip the tailbone up and peel the spine away from the ground, coming up bit by bit, piece by piece by piece. Keep moving until knees, hips and shoulders come into line with one another. We take a breath there. And breathe out as we float the vertebrae back down one by one, pressing the lower back into the floor, pelvis comes back to neutral. Lovely. Take a nice deep breath for me there. We press the lower back into the floor, pelvis comes up as the lower back presses down, and then we're looking to articulate through the vertebrae as we come on up. If you want to, add the arms in. They can lift up towards the sky, or they might want to go all the way over the head. We'll leave them there as we replace our vertebrae back down one by one. We press the lower back into the floor, pelvis comes back to neutral as the arms return back by our sides. And if you want to add a little abdominal curl up in, you can do. Breathing in as we float back down. So from here we can press the lower back into the floor and we can lift up to that ski slope position. If the hamstrings will allow us, we'll start to think about taking some foot lifts. The main goal here is to keep the pelvis still. So we allow one foot to lift away from the floor and we float that foot down. We change over to the other foot and we float that foot down. Then we add the arms in. They might want to lift towards the sky. If you take them over the head, it'll magnify those sticky bits in the spine, the bits that don't want to move independently. So work out where that place is for you. Bringing the arms back by our side. And if you want to add that little abdominal curl up in, do. Check that the belly button hollows down as you curl up. Good. This time, that little leg lift might be a bit bigger. Yes, good. We've got that ski slope position, and that ski slope position staying still as we allow one leg to lift. And then we float that foot down, we change to the other side. So if your hamstrings are really screaming at you, we need a little bit more of a squeeze in the bottom. Let's bring the arms up towards the sky or wherever works well for you. So you get a challenge to articulate the spine, but without it being impossible to get that articulation. Bringing the arms back by our sides, taking that little abdominal curl up. Breathing in as we float back down. Taking one more like that. Releasing it or pushing the spine into the ground, peeling the spine away bit by bit. If you feel you want to, the right leg stretches up for the sky. Now we're going to lower the leg until it comes into line with the opposite knee. We allow the leg to lift, bend at the knee, place the foot back down, changing over to the other side. We lengthen the leg, lower into line with the opposite knee, and we lift, bend at the knee and float the foot down, bringing those arms in and floating gently down through the spine. As you finish off this one, bring the arms up towards the sky, let the shoulders descend down into the ground. We're going to take some little arm circles here. So circling the arms as if you're drawing little circles on the ceiling, neutral spine, squeezing in through the tummy. Now, if you feel you want to, we can allow one knee to lift to hover above the hip socket, bringing the calf to that 90-degree angle. You've got a neutral spine position here and the rib cage is sinking down. Take a deep breath, and if you want to, as you open the arms, you can stretch the leg away from you And breathe in as the leg returns. So we can keep that going. Do 5 on that side and then 5 on the other side. If you feel you want to, you can press the lower back into the floor and allow yourself to work with 2 legs lifted. In which case we'll be alternating legs each time. So we've got the belly button squeezing down. If you've got 2 legs lifted, you've got the back imprinted into the ground. If you've got 1 leg lifted, you're in neutral spine. And when you've done 5 on that first side, change over to the other side for me. If you're working with 2 legs lifted and you're stretching the alternate legs away, you can allow yourself to lengthen the leg away and bring the arms across you, lifting the head, and then bring the arms back down as you allow the leg to return. So you swoop out, the legs extend away, curling around, look at the legs and draw back in. We're going to do 1 more on each side. If you're working with 2 legs lifted, if you're working with 1 leg lifted, finish off on that second side. And then we'll bring the knees in towards the chest and we'll give them a good hug. Well done, guys, that's great. Yeah, lovely. Let's allow ourselves to keep hold of the left leg and we'll glide that right leg away from us, sliding the leg out and away. And then draw the leg back in and change over to the other side. Sliding that leg away, knee comes in nice and tight. And then slide the left leg in for me. Just stretch the right leg up towards the sky. If you can hold on to it around the back of the thigh, give it a little ease in. We're only going to be here for a short time. Ease in that leg in. Rib cage rests down into the floor. Once again, just let the head roll from side to side. And then releasing that leg down to the floor, changing over to the other side, stretching the other leg up towards the sky. Letting the pelvis release down into the ground. Lovely. And you might find it'll ease a little after a couple of breaths. Good. And release in there. Coming onto one side, and we're going to bring ourselves into a crouch position because unbelievably an hour has passed. Tucking the toes under. I don't know what happens on a Friday. This hour seems to just fast forward. So we'll take a nice rock over the toes, back into the heels, over the toes. I'm with you, Sandy, I'm with you. Pressing the heels into the ground. Let the head be nice and heavy. And then we'll roll up through the spine. Take a nice scoop into the tummy. Rolling up through the vertebrae. And the head comes on top, last thing of all. Beautiful. Once you're there, take a nice deep breath in, reaching really tall. Breathe out and let it all go. Give it a good shake out. Give yourselves a round of applause. Well done, guys. So if there's any questions or feedback, do drop me a message. Thank you for watching Facebook Livers, and I'll see you on Monday.